Good morning, fellow Toastmasters.
We lost
Before I do that,
says everything that could go wrong did, and the rain started it all.
So what it really does is to us,
holidays are here,
this year
everybody's ready for their blasting of the ending of the new year, and we're going to start.
To make up for the
And the first and foremost thing I would like to do
made with grapes from
is
a
get the rose.
or
We
releasing
have Madam Timer
from previous.
and
The ripple effect won't be seen
Mr. Timer. Apologize, Bobby. I looked at you and I said, "Oh, Bobby will be there today." Thank you. Most speeches are 7 minutes. We have a total on the agenda for 8 minutes today.
Vineyards here
We
struggle
have
with
our
and their counterparts.
Marion.
But this year was about as bad as it gets. So don't expect to find many of those fine local wines. from
Marion is.
For WAMU, I'm Esther Chamakili. I
Oh,
say cheers.
thank you, Brahman.
it's tall, it's
And
majestic,
of course, we will
made of foam. In the first story from a new series
move
called
on
Hidden
with
City,
our meeting.
collaborative
And of
partnership
course, all the
between UAMU and
evaluations
Atlas
will be
Obscura. Reporter
I
Matt
would like
Flynn
to
investigates a
say the
local
name.
twist on an
I am Teresa Hoetzel. I'm your Toastmaster today. And we have
photos of Stonehenge, the tall standing stones that reside in southern England.
speeches today. And let us begin to start and open the meeting with our Toastmaster, Claudio
We're not in England.
Tayama.
Centerville, Virginia, at
His
Cox
first speech, his speech is,
Made
influence
out of
is
stone.
more than just getting
Weather makes
what
it feel like
you
you've been-
want. Please, let's give a warm welcome. And Madam Timer, thank you.
Cox Farm is set up for
It was about 5 or 6 years ago. I was on the new World Trade Center, Building 7,
Cox and I
42nd floor.
foam.
Beautiful view.
Real rock.
14-foot pillars of
The,
gray
the
stone.
windows were from floor to ceiling. And on the back, there was this beautiful Empire State Building.
Stonehenge,
And I was there
Virginia
to
artisan
present
oil.
this 3-day workshop on influencing skills and negotiation skills
Geico commercial.
to these amazing group of lawyers,
Of this circular landmark.
lawyers and attorneys from all over the world. And these guys have been practicing that for, some of them have been practicing that for 25 years.
6 weeks.
They have been negotiating
You know, it took the Nia look
multi-million-dollar contracts
they should
for
use
over 25 years.
2017.
And I was like, what am I doing here?
Stonehenge, the family farm.
I'm gonna be eaten alive. These are all sharks. And
Stonehenge is
what do I know?
a rudimentary
How can I
solar
actually say something
what
to these
any
guys
modern
that
day
have been practicing
So we
that,
talked
have been
Stonehenge,
practicing
brought in
these
professionals
muscles
to set it up.
for 25 years?
I'm the observatory director.
So I went into
Orienting Stonehenge
influence
odd job.
is not just getting what you want.
Other unique projects in the region. Stonehenge has held a
Why
special
not?
place in his heart ever since he
Because
was-
influence is this equation that it is about the results that you want to get. Of course, you need to look at the results that you want to get.
Stonehenge was built about
And then you
4,500
need to also look at the relationship that you have with the other people, or with the other companies, or with the other groups that you're trying to
They used
influence,
what they had to build it.
trying to negotiate
It really
something.
didn't matter.
And also you need to know the context
Civilization, whoever they
of
were.
this relationship. You need to know the context of the world. What is happening in the world?
Stonehenge
For
to work.
instance, with these
Keller needed
guys,
a site.
some of them, they were
Just
dealing
full
with,
sunrise.
let's say, Brazil. And Brazil was in
Keller met
turmoil economically. So they need to know the context of the relationship.
astronomically
And they need to know the context of the economy so that they know how to influence this guy.
And
So
short
that's
time
why I say influence is more than just getting the results that you want. And why is that as well? Because in order for you to keep the relationship,
Stonehenge.
you need to know what they also want. So a lot of people think that influence is just a one-way street. It is not. It is a conversation. It is, okay, this is what I want. What is it that you want? And we meet in the middle. It is not just getting what you want, because then the relationship gets
Home nominal.
severed.
She has a work cut out for her.
People will be like, oh, this guy or this person is trying to manipulate you into doing what you want.
Unpredictable
And that
weather.
gets you nowhere.
Doesn't.
Maybe you get a win
Went through and
in
just
that one
all
instance,
at it. It would
but
poke
then
at it almost because we had so much hail.
Every year,
have
at least
anything
touches
else.
the armor, 35
Or
gallons.
maybe there is so much resentment from
Styrofoam.
getting what
Take
you want
centers
that
throws
way
in landfill.
that they will be like,
That leads us
nope.
with the question: which one will
And
last longer?
In
Don't have
certain markets, there is a whole
Tricky question.
situation that you don't want to get into because people know each other. And once the word gets out that you're just trying to,
WMU, I'm Influence.
you're greedy and you just want, what you want, and you are not even paying attention to other people, then you're done. You're done dealing with that market. You're done dealing with those people. You're done dealing with that sector. You're done. Your reputation is tarnished, and sometimes for good.
Newest installment.
So relationships are essential to influence.
Today's question comes from listener
Relationships
Sylvia
are essential
Jimenez.
to influence, and you always need to keep
To not have a
in
one.
mind the relationship that you have with
When
those.
she asked, we had to know too. So
And
we
you
put
always
WAMU's
okay, so
culture
what is it
report
that
for
you
Cato
want? How can we
Lefrak.
actually come
Find
to
out
an
what's
agreement
behind the zoos,
that would be
hounds,
beneficial to
First,
all
let's start with the
parties
obvious
involved?
question. Why does
Some
this
people call it the win-win and sometimes win-win-win
I
situation,
called her up to
because
find
it is a
out.
win for the first party, it is a win to the
What's up with
second
the
party,
wombat
and it is
question?
a win
I love
when
them.
both come
They're
together.
little bear-like
It's a win-win-win
creatures,
situation.
Latin hindquarters.
That's what you need to get
They're very ornery. They have cubicle food.
time.
Yes.
The more you can.
Fluffy, furry marsupials
So
with
we're just now heard that, the government is
enough
on
said,
a,
I am fully aboard the wombat
because
train.
they couldn't reach
So
the
how
agreement.
does the National Zoo
Because once one party said, no, this is what we want, and the other party said, no, this is
one
what
of the
we want,
first visitors I
we
see,
cannot come to an agreement.
Harold Drew Snapkowski of Virginia.
My favorite animal
So
is
how can we get to that middle
So I
ground?
asked him why he thinks there are no
Both
wombats here.
parties are
it's
benefiting.
not because they made fight,
So influence is
or
more.
maybe because they don't want poop all
Oh,
Fine, but to the wallaby exhibit, where I find Steve Sparrow, the zoo's
Now we will have,
says visitors might not
Round
realize
robin.
the zoo has almost 400 different species.
Give
The
our
zoo is
feedback.
Not all
we have
about
speaker number one,
crocodile,
Claudio.
python.
And I would like to start from my right.
Heroes got
Start
nothing
from
to
it, please.
says it's just a small mammals guy, and you've got to stick with your team. So what about wombats?
I've actually thought about wombats. Awesome species.
But Sarah says for him to advocate to bring in a new species, it has to check a lot of boxes. One of the most important questions is, would it be active during the daytime?
For the guests to learn about them, they need to see them. Elephants are active during the day. Works.
Great news for elephants, but wombats, not so much. They're mostly active at dawn and dusk. That means the zoo would need to build them a special exhibit with a reverse light cycle. That'd be expensive, and the small mammals.
Our second speaker,
Is Sarah
feedback, Kim, please.
Yes, I enjoyed Claudio, and I followed because my experience agrees with what you're saying.
About 5 years ago, they had to remove
And
other animals.
I think that what would have strengthened it was an example. Something, as Toronto said, how you made that happen. And I know because I'm about to speak that it's really hard to do. I just
Sarah,
have a good example, but I think that would have strengthened it.
situation improved.
Thank you, Toastmaster Kim. And I apologize to everyone. Today I should have introduced everyone.
Like slip you $1,000 check.
And
Well, you could, but I would use it to.
feedback.
I'd gotten as far as I could go. Time to go one step higher to Brandy Smith. She oversees the care and management of the nearly 3,000 animals that live at the zoo. We sit down at her desk and she starts scrolling through the zoo's 5-year animal collection plan.
This is actually, when you look at our collection plan, it's so big, it's not a Word document, it's a spreadsheet.
Based on that list, an animal has to pass a 5-question test. 1, can it thrive in zoo care? Visitors
Thank you, Madam.
relationship is very important, and then it is very good point, and then don't hear other things, and it is good. Yeah.
Thank you. Toastmaster Bobby Fraser.
Oh, yeah, you taught me something very essential about influence. Three things: context, relationship, the environment, yourself, what's going on there. You're finding balance in that relationship so you can get the results in order to have a positive influence or whatever kind of influence. And that is a win-win. And so I thank you very much for that. Just go on, for example, you have a little more time.
Thank you. Toastmaster Jana Lieberman.
Hi, you have a good presence in front of the group, and you step as well. And I enjoyed your speech immensely. You spoke on the topic of the day, influence, which was marvelous. And you used the same theme and brought it home repeatedly. So that was a good use of the theme. And I heard the same theme repeated over and over again. I don't really have
Toastmaster. Yeah, please. And Toastmaster. Hi, Nancy.
The final edition was fantastic. I feel like you're talking directly to me, but I have the feeling that everyone else felt that too. You know, your architect is really lovely and use the space is great. I love the influence we got on those streets. Like definitely like tweeting quote. You know, like that is a great way of looking at that. And the only thing that I would add was bring it back home with less.
Thank you. Toastmaster Band. Thank you. And my Toastmaster Teresa.
Hi, Claudia. You're a great speaker. I like to see all this. I'd like to see some drama.
And with Therese, influence is a two-way means of communication. It can work to your advantage and tremendously work to your disadvantage. It depends on how effectively you are in your purpose for wanting to have that influence. And let's move on with, oh, yes, madam, would you give us your name, please? You. Oh, thank you. Are you Toastmaster? Are you just a guest? Oh, let's go. Yeah, are you a Toastmaster?
No, I'm not.
Okay, thank you.
Soon
to be. Okay. Thank you. Okay, and I know you came in the tail end, so I'm not going to disadvantage you. I'll let you sit through the other one. Our second speaker is Toastmaster Kim Kiddo. She worked for the federal government for over 30 years. Her heart is with her friends and former colleague today. In her time with the government, she had a lot of bosses, some very good and some very not so good. She's looking at a particular style of leadership today. for the start of Pathways Level 2. Her speech is called When You're Not the Smartest Person in the Room. Please welcome Toastmaster Infl. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa, and fellow Toastmasters, and yes, good to have you here. I walked into a government conference room somewhere in Northern Virginia. I was there for a system requirements review. Requirements were my thing. We were going to be there for the next few hours. And the systems and development people there were working on something that people in my office wanted to use and other people around the government wanted to use. They were going to go through that morning in excruciating detail that what they were planning. And I mean excruciating. Here we have a block for a function we're going to have, and here are the sub-functions underneath it. And if you follow along, we'll find on the next pages the sub-functions that those relate to. Page by page, diagram by diagram, block by block. It was going to be a challenge to not fall asleep. But the senior executive at the head of the conference table, who had to decide what the budget, who had a budget, who had technical constraints with people, had technology constraints, needed to decide what it was that was actually going to happen, and he needed to approve this plan. Now, as we listened, I didn't fall asleep. As a matter of fact, as the meeting went on, it was very apparent to me that I was having fun. How was that? Parts of the discussion were very interesting and stimulating to me. Other parts, not so much. See, I didn't care about the guts of the system. I just needed to make sure that it did the things that my office needed. Okay? But even then, I was enjoying myself. And I thought about that, and at the end of the meeting, I had a conversation with the technical director who was in charge of the whole project, somebody I'd been acquainted with for several years at that point. And I said, hey, Lou, thanks for including me in this. And it was really fun. Why do you think it was fun? Lou didn't hesitate for a second. And he articulated what I had already been thinking. He said, because we turned this review into an exchange of ideas. Yes, exactly. From the time that the first charts went up, anybody at that conference table or in the chairs around the edges, I was at the conference table, were able to ask questions, seek clarification, provide insights and ideas. All of us had areas of expertise. All of us had areas of concern, from finance to design to requirements to users. We all had something to say. And the senior executive at the head of the table, he didn't know all that stuff. He had a good overview, but he was able to lead that discussion so that we were all influencing and collaborating, and it was fun. Was I glad I was there? Oh, yes. Was I willing to go back? Yes, and I did. Was the system that was going to result better than it would have been without a discussion like that? Yes. Did my office get everything we wanted? No. There were constraints, but everything had been considered, everything had been thought through. And I myself had been able to speak several times on issues of concern to me or answer other questions, and each time I was respected and I was heard. Authoritative or bureaucratic leadership, which is more typical in a lot of environments and has been typical historically, assumes that the person who is making final decisions is the smart person, is the expert. But as our world gets more and more complex and more complicated, and you have all these people with different areas of expertise, that's not really going to get you very far, I don't think. I think we need to find that level where we listen, where we collaborate, and we get stronger, and we have better influence. And I was able to put that to work in the office I moved to not long after that, when I was the chief for architecture and requirements, that division. And we needed to provide what we needed, because there was an office that had been designated to build us a system that we would use for our work. I needed to make sure that they understood what it is we needed it to do. And I went about it exactly the way I'd learned. I put together discussion groups. We developed a document. We ranked things. We explained things in sufficient detail so that the developers would understand, not only do I need to do this, I need to do this step, and this step, and this step, and we went through it in that kind of detail. It was a little challenging to do, because the people that I had invited to these discussion groups had never been part of this kind of thing before. And also, no one had ever asked them for their ideas before. At the end, the plan that we put forward was highly praised by our senior leadership. And all the other offices who were supposed to do similar things were told to use mine as a model. We had influence. And I didn't stay there, and I think things are still in progress, so I don't know exactly how it came out, but I know they had good information in order to do that. Now, this kind of leadership is not weak. It's not passive. It's definitely different if we've never been part of it. But it requires a number of things. It requires developing trust. And that comes over time and experience. We have to, time after time, show that we are listening, that we are taking into consideration the things that matter, and that we'll follow through. We need relationships. We need to understand the people and the politics involved. We need to understand what roadblocks we're going to run into when someone says, no, you're not going to do that. We need to do that. We need to have respect for every contributor in the room, even the people we don't like, even the people whose ideas we think we don't want. They may have the one you need, and I've seen that happen. Okay, we have to have the strength and the humility to be surprised that somebody's going to bring up something we never thought of, that it's going to be vitally important. We have to have the ability to accept that there is a different perspective from the one that we have. We need to be the kind of leaders that say, I don't know it all, and I need you to help me make the right decision. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you. Leadership, leadership, so many styles of leadership. Transparency is one I've heard you mention a little bit, but it's tremendously important. Your style of leadership is depending on whether you are successful in having your turn in getting a project completed. Yes, Mr. Time. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. The hands clapping, we already was beginning to think, is it 30 seconds? Thank you. I'm going to start in this direction now. Toastmaster Ben.
I thought that your bottom line was excellent. Really fitting what you were saying.
Okay.
It was right in what you were saying.
Okay.
And I thought the message was very clear.
Toastmaster.
Great speech, and one thing that I loved was your speech was the tempo, because you were, and then page by page, diagram by diagram, block by block. It was like you could really see that being built because of the tempo that you used. That was and then also you used a question to actually engage with someone. Why was it fun? And then we were all like, why was it fun? Yeah, because it was like, the only
Catch you later.
Again, love how how you engage us, how you put us in, with humor, there's all different emotions happening. But I absolutely loved how you followed through with all of it. You taught us, we learned the lesson that you learned from the initial meeting and how you implemented it, and then the outcome from that. And that to me was fantastic. That complete follow through. I didn't feel it was only a segment of your experience. I felt the entire lesson.
Good.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you. Toastmaster Lucy. Neat. I'm like, oh, Lucy. Lucy's here. Thank you. Neat.
Thank you.
Toastmaster Hannah.
I enjoyed your speech, Jim. It was a great talk about your experience in the project. I wanted to know what you were producing. It would have been more about exactly what the project was.
I didn't want to bore you too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was interesting to hear talk about how you work together with the team. That was really to hear how it all comes together.
Okay. Toastmaster Bobby.
Kim, you keep it going. You're a master storyteller. Every time I've heard you speak, you're telling a story. Good visualizations. You have master script words. You can even feel the emotions, things of that nature. And we all go to meetings. We're all part of projects when we work in. What I like about it, you gave us some things like you needed to be heard, you need to be respected, and then in that process, you had to answer questions all the time.
Thank you.
Yeah. I need to speak slower, you think? Okay. Okay.
Toastmaster Mike.
Cool. Thank you, Ken. Your body language, your tone, the way you were rolling around was awesome in line with how you wanted to present the talk. I love that. Secondly, your message of influence. I love the fact that twice you talked about that the top person who's at the head of the desk does not know everything, so everyone needs to contribute. I love that. One suggestion, the way you presented influence, you had a lot of information. So possibly presenting something like this.
Toastmaster Therese.
Tim, you are at an increasingly accelerated pace, improving, and your speech is amazing. The only thing I would say is the same thing that I suggested with Claudio is use the stage and bring in the people by walking towards them.
Okay.
Because you are moving, but you're not coming to us. And
Okay.
you're not hitting one person. And I don't know.
Okay.
I feel like you could move the stage a little bit more.
Okay.
Thank you.
Did you hear it? You were outside. I know. Okay.
Okay.
Master storyteller, the way you were exclusively detailed. We didn't have the challenge of collapsing your speech. Beautiful way you made the point that to listen, collaborate, and that's what makes it stronger. And you don't have to have story in your own head. One thing that I would suggest in terms of listening, you have a lot of suggestions how to listen, how to listen. So you could maybe take 3 points or 4 points in 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
That would help us get that message out.
Would you like to put some feedback? You can, if not.
Or you can pass.
You can pass. Yes, you can. Thank you.
Okay.
Darlene and Mrs. Mary. And anyhow, let's go to the third speaker. Thank you. Do we have anybody else not on the line here? No. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Now let's go with speaker number 3, Brahman Sins. His speech is titled, he's been around for a long time as a Toastmaster.
Really?
And I would say 5, 7 years. I've known him for about 6, because I've been 6 years of Toastmasters. And he's been active in officer roles and quite a few other leadership roles. He's going to speak about divinity in leadership. I will not labor him. Please welcome Toastmaster Brahman.
We all have our identity, or should I say misidentity. My friend John called me, Brahma, you want to go to Vegas? I said, no. He said, come on, it'll be fun. We'll have blackjack, we'll drink, and besides, in Vegas, whatever you do, stays in Vegas. Nobody will ever know. I said, no. He said, come on, why not? I said, I don't gamble. I'm not that kind of person. See, the identity we have formed about ourselves makes us take the type of decision based on our identity that we have created for ourselves. He said, come on, you buy stocks, you bought any loan, how much money did you lose? Is that gambling? I ended up going to Vegas. My friend John is a nice guy. You ask him anything, he'll come and help you. John, can you come? I'm moving. Sure. John, I got a new furniture. Can you come? Sure. How come I'm always here at your place when you have to move something? John is funny. But one day he snaps back at me. What do you think is going in my head? Maybe he's stressed out about his job or his wife fights with him. I'm trying to rationalize his behavior based on the identity I've formed about him. What if John is not a nice guy? He's selfish, he's self-centered, and he snaps back at me. What do I say? What do we expect from him? It's always been like that. I always try to rationalize based on the identity about him. Let's do one more exercise, and this would involve a physical exercise. Don't worry, it's very simple. I would like all of you to stand up. Shake your body. Very simple exercise, don't worry. Typically, I like to do is raise my arm and point your index finger, not yet. And I typically want to do like this, or take it as far as I can. But this time, because of the space limitation, I like to do it this way. So bring your hand and point your index finger and take it as far as back as you can. And then bring it down. Shake your body. Very easy. Now, I would like you to close your eyes. Again, close your eyes and do not do physically. Imagine that you are taking that hand twice as far as you are done the first time. Imagine you are not doing it physically. Now imagine that you have taken it 3 times as far as you have. One more time. Imagine you have taken 360 of that arm. Now open your eyes. All right, now extend your arm, take it as far as you want. Now bring it down. Please have a seat. Now, did you think the second time you are able to go further than the first time you did it? You said, sure. You said, Brahma, come on. You know, it was just, I wasn't serious the first time, but why weren't you? I asked you. And that's because in your head, you have a comfort zone. In your head, you have an identity. How far can I go? That's your standard that you've created. But when I challenge that standard, when I challenge that assumption, you are able to do it differently. Now, how does that ties to leadership? Leadership is about not making a unilateral decision. I'll pull my troops out of Syria. We'll make 25% adjustment in interest rate. That is based on our identity. The irony is, when we have the identity, we take our decision. We always stand up to that decision, that identity in our head. But the irony is, that identity is not based on solid foundation. It could be changed, it could be multiplied, it could be modified, it could be altered based on the questions we ask, or the visualization, or the possibility that it can be improved. So it's more important in leadership when your decision is impacting entire world, entire country, yourself. So my question to you is this, that if you want to make a change to yourself as an individual or as a leader, question your identity. Ask yourself, is this true? That's the only way you make a sound decision. You create a new territory and you make a change. Thank you.
Okay. We're going to do this a little different because you're going to answer questions if they have. Would you like to start, Lucy?
Sure. Very much. I like your vocal variety and also the interaction with the audience, with the body movement. And I think one point we probably can use the stage better and we walk around more to interact with the.
Thank you.
Kim?
I like the part everybody liked that you showed us what you were talking about. You didn't simply just talk.
Therese? Michael? Suman. What part of my? I heard you say Michael. Oh, that's just him.
I said middle.
Sorry.
I think you're absolutely also like public speaking. One session, the exercise that you did, I thought that could have been more of the centerpiece of the presentation, but probably more was more time. Please, that's building up that exercise, the exercise itself, and that could have been done better.
Very kind, very interesting, very truly, very interesting. And your message is good.
Bobby?
Everything didn't stand Vegas. You shared with us.
Yeah.
Experience, and then you taught us how to really move past our own self-limitations, which are very important. We always get stuck. And then we develop fear. But you showed us with a simple physical activity how we can get past that. Use all possibility of this. Very important, very powerful.
I'm doubtful that the experiment was going to work, that anything would happen when I did my arm exercise. So that was really a very simple exercise that showed something was going to happen. Thank you for having me do something during the speech. That was really interesting. Thank you for your speech. It was good.
But with interruption, did everybody took the hand further than the first time?
Yeah.
Darling?
Same as everyone else, love the content, love the interaction, love the physicality of it. The only thing that I would add is in the very beginning, as you're starting, this is something, like this is a personal thing that I believe for everybody all the time, to start off slower than you think you should, so that we can really hear every word. Like I didn't hear the first Vegas, so then until you said it again, I didn't know what you were talking about. So just taking those first couple sentences really slow until we get into your cadence,
Rhythm,
get into your personality.
Sounds good. Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yes, sir.
Speech and all comments that were made, yes, when you're speaking in public, because so many words, like you were going down like interest rate, and then you were like interest what? Like, of course, so interest rates, so it's almost like coming up, and every single word, because you are giving a speech.
Thank you. I want you to stand up here for just a minute. What he did just now is what we all supposed to do when we speak and we immediately have evaluations. Thank you. What has happened here today is that everyone gave this speaker immediate attention to give him the feedback where he can comprehend. Did you notice the difference in the room environment as to sitting down and going one by one and calling names? This was an engaged mercy of the audience. Thank you.
Thank you.
And what he has gathered, I'm quite sure he's comprehended much more readily, other than having to write it down, because engaged. Thank you. Now, we're going to go to our last speaker, and that will be Ben. And Ben is going to also give an 8-minute speech. That was very good. Our next speaker is a longtime Toastmaster. He is a retired Social Security employee who joined Social Security Toastmasters Club in 1994. I knew there was something about you, but I just couldn't put it together. I retired from the federal. Yeah, I kept saying I know him. I've been in the federal government and military, but I kept remembering something about you. And I also, that was my last stop, and I retired from Social Security Administration as well 2 years ago. Thank you for bringing that up. I said, oh my God, that's where I remember him from. Today, he will be giving a speech from the Advanced Communications Manual, the entertaining speaker. Project number 4, a dramatic talk. His objectives are to develop an entertaining, dramatic speech about an experience or incident. Since it is the holiday season, he thought he could tell a true holiday story that he hopes you will enjoy. The title of his speech is A Christmas Story. Perhaps help me welcome Advanced Toastmaster Silver and competent leader, Ben. Okay, thank you.
Fellow Toastmasters and welcome. This is a true story about a man who was rather short, only about 5 feet tall. In school as a child, he was bullied and teased. He was often thought of somebody who was a rebel. His name was Robert Louis May. And Robert graduated from college, and he got a job at Montgomery Ward's department store as a copywriter. He married Evelyn Parks, and they had a daughter named Barbara. 2 years after Barbara was born, tragedy struck. Barbara was diagnosed with cancer, and she was bedridden. All the money that Barbara was able to make went into the medicine and the doctors. About 2 years later, Barbara found out her dad in police and asked a childlike question. Why isn't my mommy like other mommies? This struck a chord with Robert, bringing him back to his own youth when he asked a similar question. Why am I tall as the other kids? He was distraught and dismayed, but he wanted to relieve his daughter of her anxiety. So he decided to tell her a story about someone else who was treated badly, was teased, was not included. As he made up the story and he went along, Barbara was giggling and happy because at the end, the person tried. Barbara loved the story. She made him repeat it. And every night before she went to bed, he had to tell her the story. Well, it was Christmas time. And he didn't have any money to buy his daughter a nice present. So he decided he would take the story and make a book out of it. And he was a little bit talented, and he drew illustrations, and he changed the story into a poem. 2 days before Christmas, there was an office party, and one of his co-workers encouraged him to come to the party. So he came to the party, and he brought along the poem. And he showed it to his co-worker. And his co-worker was impressed with the story. And he said, "You have to read it, everybody." He was a little hesitant, but he got up, he took the story out of his pocket, and he read it to the group. At first, they were chatting, laughing, but by the end, they were silent. And when he was finished, they stood up and applauded. He was very highly pleased with himself. He went home and he took the story and he wrapped it in Christmas paper and he put it under the tree. The next morning, Barbara was delighted with the little book that Robert had made for her. After the holidays, when Robert returned to work, his boss called him into the office. He had heard about Robert reading the story at the party. And he had told Robert that the promotion department wanted to publish his poem. So Robert agreed, and the next year, every child who came into Montgomery department store received a copy of Robert's poem. The poem was published and released and was very successful, and Robert became quite rich. During this time, Evelyn died. But now Robert had to raise his daughter, so he took the money that he made from his poem and he moved out of his small apartment into a home so he could raise Barbara properly. Well, this isn't the end of the story. Several years later, Robert's brother-in-law, Johnny Marks, was a songwriter, and he asked Robert if he could take the poem and make it into a song, which he did. And Johnny showed the poem or the song to Gene Autry, the singing cowboy. And Autry recorded the song, and it became a worldwide hit. So you may have heard the song before. It goes something like this. Wouldn't you know? Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer had a very shiny nose, and if you ever saw him, you'd be very close. All of the other reindeer used to laugh and call him names. You'll know that they'll Rudolph join in reindeer games. Then one foggy Christmas Eve, Santa came to say, Rudolph, with your nose so bright, won't you guide my sleigh tonight? Then how the reindeer loved him as he shouted out in glee, Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer, you'll go down in history.
That is a Christmas story. Stay up here, Joy. I'll be back. start on this side here with Brahman, please. And just
Ben, you are the best storyteller. No, really. Very nice way to describe how the Rudolph the reindeer came into being. Very entertaining, very touching, and we are all engaged. We were, moving forward to listen to you. Very, very well done. I just love the speech and love the background of this song. Thank you.
I'm very touched about the story, and I know where the song comes from. Thank you. Yeah.
It's a very good story. I think that a little bit more expressiveness, you're sort of the same tone of voice all the way through. And there could have been a little more drama, a little more pick up speed here, a little more down there, and a little bit more.
Therese.
The idea today was inspirational leadership, and I think that you demonstrated in your speech about the idea that to be a leader. I personally was thinking, as you're telling your story, this is an interesting idea. And that could inspire me to maybe pull something from somebody else and then promote that in a way. So that's the inspirational leadership. By telling a story, you inspired at least me.
Thank you for sharing that moving presence story and the way you put it. Really sharp, very apt context of holidays and everything. So we love that part. And lastly, how you engage everyone in singing the song. That's every public speaker.
Oh, yes.
Gene Marshall, wow. Man, I'm your boy. I never knew that song was done by him. But I have to tell you that was a very inspiring story. I can tell you about somebody great, name Barbara, so I'm trying to pull it together. So I was following you, and I want to know that it's very inspirational. It took something very simple, changed the world.
I was thinking about the person who did and that's the rest of the story. I forgot.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was trying to do, build it up to the end of the song.
Yeah, and you did a good job of doing that, building up to the end. That was excellent. I got a little anxious to feel at the end.
Yeah.
I felt the anticipation. You were a good storyteller, and you felt the purpose of the project, and that was very good.
I'm sorry. Yeah, thank you. That was a very excellent story, and I follow that before my attention coming in. I was wondering because I wasn't born here, so how old is the song?
About 50 years.
1938.
Oh, it's older than that.
And Robert was born in 1909. So it was like pre-World War I.
That's even longer. Oh, this one.
You incorporated so many things that I love about listening to someone speak. I love interaction, and I love walking away learning something new. So thank you. That was fantastic. The only thing that I would add would be the more tone differences in the first half. Really being able to feel the sadness when it's sad, feel enlightened when it's enlightened.
I gotta become more.
So that's the only thing I would have liked to have felt a little more in the beginning.
If Teresa had done it, it would have been very
But everybody doesn't have her flair. Funny.
All the comments that they made. And I also love that you came as close as possible. And that was really great because you are here with us. And love
I was afraid that Teresa was going to get me. Without that comment.
Oh, oh, thank you for that speech. And wait a minute, I have a feedback to give you. Rudolph the Reindeer is one of my favorite songs as a child. So I took it on to my grandkids. But what you should have done was bring the lyrics so everybody would have the words. And then he had it there, but I know I saw him with it. But I said, there it is right there.
Well,
thank you. Oh, but that's okay. We did okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
It
you.
really brings home a nice warm bringing of the season here. Thank you. This ends our speeches, and we take a 5-minute break.
We're still on time, Bob?
Yep, 5-minute break, please, and then we'll come back to table topics. Thank you.
So, not everybody is born a nature speaker, but I do believe it's trainable and we can work our way there. So, now let's practice. And then let's practice think, organize, and talk while we're standing here. So, anybody?
Before you start, you have 2 minutes to speak in different topics. The red card will go up at 1 minute and
Yeah,
I'm sorry, green card will go up at 1 minute, and then the yellow card will go up at 1 minute 30 seconds, and then the green card will go up at 2 minutes.
Thank you.
So,
Mr. Turner.
are we ready? I want it to be the first one.
Sumer.
Speaking role.
Yeah, Sumer, first one.
What do you want to accomplish in the new year?
Second.
So the question is, what do I want to accomplish in the next year? Well, 2 minutes will not cut it, but I will give it a try. One of the things which I try to do at the end of a year is look back at what I've achieved in the last year, reflect on it, and think of something which would challenge me more. And it's very apt that I have to talk about this here at this forum, because me and my wife here joining Toastmasters for for different reasons. I would just want to mention what I want to accomplish being part of Toastmasters. Public speaking is something which I was always scared of, but since my profession demanded me to get into it and get going, I think I got pretty good at it. Having said that, I want to just keep going and move to the next level. So what I want to really accomplish next year in terms of public speaking is learn from other people and get into those details which will help me propel to the next level as a public speaker. I'm going to work my butt off to do it. So yeah, that's what I want to achieve. Thank you.
Okay, the next one, apparently Nancy. So your question is, what is the New Year resolution that you make every year?
So the New Year's resolution that I make every year, I'm actually an anti-New Year's resolution person. So the New Year's resolution I make every year is I'm not going to make a New Year's resolution. I instead believe in making them as they come along. throughout the year as things become important to me. And I notice things about myself that I want to improve and push forward, and whatever that is. I don't designate 12 months to that, but I just push right into it as it happens. So currently, my newest resolution is really about my son, I have a 3-year-old son, and he's struggling a little bit in school. So right now it's about the attention around him is what I'm devoting myself to in these first few months of the new year, is really digging in deeper with him and figuring out how we can help him thrive in an environment that he's struggling with currently. So that is my December-ish resolution currently moving forward. And, and I think I'll continue to not have necessarily New Year's resolutions, but just resolutions that will come about.
So your question is, your typical topic is, what was your favorite Christmas gift you received as a child?
Oh, how lovely.
What was my favorite Christmas gift I received as a child? I remember walking out on Christmas Day and seeing under the Christmas tree a set of kitchen appliances. They were built kids settings. I went to work right away, preparing meals for my family in the most dramatic, imaginary ways. We enjoyed those imaginary toys for many years, and then we donated them to the church when we got to be too old. But I remembered the vision of all of these Christmas appliances, all these children's appliances under the tree. And we have pictures of it, so I can go back and look at it and still remember those days of those imaginary toys, of those appliances. It covered the entire floor of the kitchen, of the living room. There were like 4 of them: a refrigerator, a range, oven, a countertop. We played and played and played with those toys for a long time. And then they got to be in my room. I don't know why they got to be in my room instead of my sister's room, but they cluttered up my room for a number of years. But they were a most played with toy for a number of years. And that is what I remember from one of my favorite Christmas toys. One more, Bobby. One more.
1 minute, would you just bring green and minute and 30 seconds to yellow? Oh, okay. All right. Minute 30 for yellow, minute for the green, and then 2 minutes for the red.
Thank you, Bobby.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
Your typical topic today is, what do you love most about yourself?
Oh.
Thank you. Wow.
What I love most about myself is that I have this uncanny ability to connect with lots of people. It surprises myself. I attribute a lot of it because my father was in the military 24 years and we moved and moved. I've lived almost every major city by a seaport, from Florida all the way to Boston, and then ended up to Washington, D.C., where he finally retired. And I think the ability to do that is you have to adjust. You have to put yourself out there. You have to risk all the time. So I'm so comfortable at risking. I'm so comfortable at like being embarrassed. I'm so comfortable, I just laugh at myself a lot. So I think that has really helped me to love me even more. And then the other part about loving me is that I can share food with everybody. I love to cook. And by sharing food, you always attract people to come, hang out with you. And I like to say I'm a very good cook. And now that I have a new kitchen, because I spent a lot of money in remodeling my kitchen, I really will be cooking and baking. So I feel really good about that. And I hope all of you will learn to love me as I love you unconditionally, no matter what your identity is, no matter if you go to Vegas or don't. That's right.
Thank you, all the keyboard topic speakers. Now I believe Toastmaster background.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Very good. Learned a little bit about the few speakers here today, right? We need to have just a meeting, half of the meeting with table topics, just to see how fast we can think on our feet. Now I would like to bring on our general evaluator, who will give an evaluation of feedback of the meeting.
Happy holidays. Toastmasters of the day and fellow Toastmasters and guests. Today, I'm the general evaluator, and this is the first time I'm doing the general evaluator. First of all, I'm sorry I'm late today because I'm going to a different branch. I put myself ahead of time. And I'm sorry I missed the Claudia's DHI to do is last year, also fun. And thank you all the parents who all excellent speech. I like Tim's body language and grandma's conversation and Ben's holiday feeling. I love the song of Randolph Rudy. That's my favorite Christmas song also. And also all the evaluations are excellent, quite on the point, and also have a very positive encouragement. And now I'm going to have the next task. So they are going to have grammar, art, and grammar.
Yeah, I'll just speak from here. I'm the grammarian, so my job is to find fault with you. But you guys really disappointed me. You guys did well. So I'll start with, I start with Claudio, who gave a really influential speech. You didn't have any filler words that I caught except one, so I would ignore it. And you had nice saying, influence is not what you want. Influence is not one-way street, and many other quotes that you made in your speech. Sumer, you were fine until you started the table topics. So where you picked up a few arms, like 4 or 5 arms, one so, I would still say it's good. I wrote Alia. Yeah, okay, I'll forget that. So our next speaker is Bob. Bob, you had a couple of arms. And you said something, put yourself out there, good statement, good way to connect with people. I like that statement. Jenna, again, you were pretty clear until you started the table topics where you picked up 4 or 5 arms. Other than that, it's good. Ning, you were good until you started doing the table topics where you picked up a little over about 10 arms and a few, like 4 or 5 sows. I guess it's all right. You were catching up. Nancy, you had a couple of arms, a couple of sows. I would say fine. Ben, you had a few arms, like 2, 3, and then 1 sow. Larissa, I didn't catch you with any any filler word. Lucia, you had few arms. There is, I didn't catch you with any arms, only one. Kim, you picked up some when you said a lot of okay. I don't know, it's okay, it's fine. It's a connecting word. I didn't see you any arms or odds, but I saw you use few nows, see, okay. I don't know, okay is fine or not. I wrote, did I cover anybody? Anybody? Did I cover everybody? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have who said what. Let's test everybody's listening. Okay, let's welcome Jenna.
Hi, thank you. Who said, I am an anti-New Year's resolution person? Okay, good. Who said, in your head you have a comfort zone?
Was it Brahma?
Yeah, that was Brahma. Yeah. Who said, it was going to be a challenge not to fall asleep?
Oh, that was Kim.
That was Kim. Then who said, influence is not just getting what you want?
Mr.
Claudio. Y'all are good. Thank you.
Okay, next we are going to have time report. Boss, you want to speak?
Yeah, come on.
Okay, Thomas report. Claudio, speaking for 5 to 7 minutes, you spoke for 5 minutes, 22 seconds. Kim, speaking 5 to 7 minutes, you spoke for 7 minutes, 49 seconds. Raman, 5 to 7 minutes speech, you spoke 5 minutes, 26 seconds. Ben, 5 to 7 minutes, spoke for 6 minutes, 40 seconds. Topic, Mar, minute 20 seconds. Nancy, minute 24 seconds. Jenna, minute 28 seconds. Bobby, minute 33 seconds. And as an advanced club, you can do a speech 10 to 20 minutes. To really, because a lot of what you guys talk about today, really, Kim, you got keynote address. Really.
I could easily have filled an hour on that.
Keynote address. Yeah. You really do that. Thank you all.
Okay, next we are going to have our I gotta get my water though.
I'm not done with it.
Yeah.
Well, where do you go around?
Go around the camera.
Yeah.
25 cents.
I'll start with you. I think you had too much fun in this.
Thank you.
Yeah, keep rolling. Yes, keep rolling. 3 for 3. I know. Don't
It's going back to her anyway.
I usually do my favorite song.
It's going to be a good
Lovely to be home. Thank you.
This sweater, awesome.
Yes.
All right.
Three.
Uh-huh.
Thank you. No, I forgot to ask you one more. The table topic. You did a great job. I love your table topic thing. It's really very suitable for our New Year resolution, New Year plan, New Year. New Year resolution is great for every year. I like to make, but sometimes I cannot finish. Okay, thank you everyone, and let me bring back. Welcome back our.
And now what we're gonna do, we're gonna end this meeting here very shortly. And I'm not gonna labor out not one thing. I'm gonna bring Jana up and she will discuss the next meeting plans.
Thank you all for signing up for meeting roles.
Thank you.
Every time we meet around